Welcome back to True Crime Documentary YouTube channel. Have you ever thought you knew everything about your quiet little town? That nothing ever really happens there, and life just moves forward in the same rhythm every day? But what if that sense of peace was shattered by a dark secret, hiding in plain sight? What if someone you knew, someone you trusted, was involved in something sinister? This is the story of Maplewood, Virginia. A small town with a population of just over 13,000 people. A place where everyone knew each other by name, where the biggest news was usually about the annual town fair. But in July 2009, Maplewood was shaken to its core. The discovery of Liam Harris's body on the edge of town triggered a chain of events that would reveal hidden truths, dark motives, and a murder that no one saw coming. Liam Harris was only 19 years old. He had grown up in Maplewood, attended the local high school, and was known to most as a friendly, easygoing young man. But on that fateful July day, Liam's life came to a brutal and abrupt end. His body was found near the thick woods that bordered the town, concealed under branches and leaves, as though someone had tried to bury a secret. He had been strangled, and his arms were covered in defensive wounds, indicating that he had fought hard to survive. Maplewood was not a town used to crime, especially not violent crime. Sheriff Thomas Carter had seen his share of petty theft and minor disputes, but nothing like this. He had known Liam since he was a child, just like he knew most people in the town. The discovery of the boy's body sent shockwaves through the community. Everyone was asking the same question: who could have done this, and why? As Sheriff Carter began to piece together the few clues they had, one name kept coming up: Nancy Dawson. Nancy Dawson was a 55-year-old widow who lived alone on the outskirts of town, in an old house not far from where Liam's body was found. Nancy had lived in Maplewood her whole life. She had been married to David Dawson, a respected local businessman, until his tragic death 5 years earlier in a car accident. After that, Nancy became something of a recluse. She spent most of her time in her garden or reading at home, rarely venturing into town except for Sunday church services at First Light Church or quick errands. But despite her quiet lifestyle, Nancy was known for something else: her knowledge of the town's history and its people. She had a reputation for knowing everyone's secrets, though she rarely spoke of them. This gave rise to gossip and rumors, especially after Liam's body was found so close to her property. Sheriff Carter had a good relationship with Nancy, but even he couldn't ignore the growing suspicions. People in Maplewood started whispering. Could Nancy know something about what had happened to Liam? Could she be hiding something? As the investigation continued, Sheriff Carter realized he needed help. This was no ordinary case for a small-town sheriff's department. So he called in an old friend, Detective Jack Mitchell. Mitchell had spent years solving difficult cases in Boston, and his reputation as a seasoned investigator preceded him. Detective Mitchell arrived in Maplewood, ready to dive deep into the mystery. His first stop: Nancy Dawson. Mitchell questioned Nancy at her home. The interview was cordial at first. Nancy, despite her reclusive nature, was cooperative. She claimed that she had seen nothing unusual the night Liam was killed. She said she had gone to bed early, as she often did, and heard nothing out of the ordinary. But there was something about her calmness that made Mitchell uneasy. She didn't seem shocked or particularly disturbed that a murder had happened so close to her home. In fact, her calm demeanor felt almost rehearsed. Mitchell pressed her with more questions, trying to probe deeper. He asked about her relationship with Liam, her thoughts on the rumors circulating in town. Nancy admitted that she had known Liam since he was a child. He had often helped her with small chores around the house and yard, but she insisted their relationship had been nothing more than neighborly. However, Mitchell wasn't convinced. There was something she wasn't telling him, something that didn't sit right. But without any solid evidence linking her to the crime, he had no choice but to leave her house with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, the town was buzzing with rumors. Liam had been seen in the days leading up to his death with various people, some familiar, some not. The local diner became the center of gossip, where townsfolk whispered about who might have been involved. Some suggested that Liam had gotten himself into trouble with the wrong crowd. Others hinted that a woman had been seen with him the night before his murder, but no one could agree on who she was. The investigation took a turn when James Scott's name was thrown into the mix. James Scott was known around Maplewood as a troublemaker. He was in his early 30s and had lived in the town his whole life. James had a reputation for getting into fights and causing disturbances, often involving alcohol. He lived alone in a rundown house on the far edge of town, and people generally kept their distance from him. His past run-ins with the law had made him somewhat of a pariah in Maplewood, though no one could say for certain that James had ever done anything truly malicious. But now, with Liam's death still fresh in everyone's minds, people were eager to point fingers, and James Scott seemed like an easy target. Detective Mitchell decided to pay James a visit. James, as expected, was defensive, but he allowed Mitchell to search his property. In James's garage, Mitchell found something troubling, a length of rope stained with what appeared to be blood. This discovery was enough to take James in for questioning. The rope seemed like a key piece of evidence. Was it used to strangle Liam? Had James killed the boy in a fit of rage? James denied everything. He claimed he didn't even know Liam, except by name. He admitted that the rope was his, but he insisted the blood was from an old accident, not a murder. But his history of violence and the incriminating evidence seemed too strong to ignore. For a brief moment, it seemed like the case might be solved. James Scott was arrested, and Maplewood began to breathe a little easier. Maybe justice would be served, and life in the town could return to normal. But Detective Mitchell wasn't satisfied. Something about the case still didn't add up. The rope in James's garage felt too convenient. It was as though it had been left there on purpose, almost like someone wanted James to take the fall. And the more Mitchell thought about it, the less James seemed capable of planning and executing a murder this calculated. That's when another name surfaced in Mitchell's investigation: Michael Turner. Michael Turner had moved to Maplewood about a year before Liam's murder. He was a quiet man in his late 40s, not very well known in town, but he had a small group of acquaintances. Mitchell discovered that Michael had a past, one that included criminal activity, though nothing violent. He had been involved in drug deals and shady business in his previous town, but he had somehow managed to avoid serious jail time. Mitchell dug deeper into Michael's background and learned that Liam had been seen with him in the weeks leading up to his death. It seemed that Liam had become involved in something he didn't fully understand, something connected to Michael's past. The more Mitchell looked into Michael's life, the more connections he found. Liam had borrowed money from Michael, a significant amount, it seemed. There were rumors that Liam had been involved in a small drug operation, perhaps even helping Michael with deals in and around Maplewood. But something had gone wrong. Liam couldn't repay the debt, and Michael wasn't the kind of man who let things slide. Mitchell decided to confront Michael. He brought him in for questioning, hoping to catch him off guard. At first, Michael denied everything. He claimed he barely knew Liam, that they had only spoken a few times. But when Mitchell mentioned the money, Michael's demeanor changed. He became defensive, agitated. It was clear he was hiding something. As the investigation continued, it became apparent that Michael wasn't acting alone. Nancy Dawson, who had maintained her innocence throughout, was starting to look more and more suspicious. She had known Liam, and she had known Michael. In fact, Mitchell discovered that Nancy had been friends with Michael for years, long before either of them lived in Maplewood. Could she have been involved in whatever criminal dealings Michael was running in the town? Mitchell returned to Nancy's house for a second round of questioning. This time, she wasn't as composed as before. The pressure was getting to her, and she seemed nervous. Mitchell asked her directly about her relationship with Michael and Liam. Nancy admitted that she had known about Liam's money troubles, but she insisted she had nothing to do with his death. But there was something in her tone, something that made Mitchell doubt her even more. In a dramatic turn of events, Mitchell arranged a confrontation between Michael and Nancy. It was time to see who would crack under pressure. In a tense room, the two sat across from each other, each accusing the other of having more involvement in Liam's death than they had admitted. Michael, growing increasingly desperate, claimed that Nancy had been the mastermind. He said she had blackmailed him, using her knowledge of his past crimes to force him into killing Liam. Nancy, shocked by the accusation, denied everything, saying that Michael was trying to pin the blame on her to save himself. But the truth was becoming clearer to Mitchell. The murder of Liam Harris wasn't just a simple act of violence. It was the result of a series of bad decisions, a web of lies, and a debt that had spiraled out of control. Michael Turner had killed Liam to silence him and protect his own interests. Nancy, while not directly responsible for the murder, had known more than she had let on. Her silence had allowed the situation to escalate, and her connection to Michael made her complicit in the tragedy. In the end, Michael Turner was arrested and charged with the murder of Liam Harris. James Scott, wrongfully accused, was released. As for Nancy, her role in the crime was never fully clear, but the damage to her reputation was done. She left Maplewood shortly after the trial, selling her house and moving away to start over. The town of Maplewood slowly returned to normal, but it was never quite the same. The murder of Liam Harris had revealed the dark underbelly of a seemingly peaceful place. It had shown that even in the quietest of towns, danger can lurk just beneath the surface. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out our other videos for more captivating stories. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.